Bill Korach with the report card, bringing truth to the classroom. Tonight we have David Barton, who's head of WallBuilders. David has done fantastic work in the history arena, illustrating about our Judeo-Christian heritage and how this is being eradicated. David, last year the Department of Education spent $80 billion, and we've seen a sharp rise since the Department of Education was founded in the late 70s. And at the same time, we see the rise in spending, we see a decline in scores. Now, you've talked a lot about how history is being eradicated, our Judeo-Christian heritage, that it's being either eliminated or dropped. David McCullough says that ignorance of our national history on the part of kids is equivalent to a national security threat. Do you feel that there is a relationship in our kids' performance with the removal of our moral foundation?
Well, one of the things that we did early on that went through congressional scrutiny as well was we came out and showed statistical correlations between removal of religious principles from education and scores. Right. Now, already in the last 3 to 4 months, we've seen other studies go the other way. I don't mean the other way as conclusion, but right. We just had a study come out and say, one of the greatest things to help minority students increase their scores, what's called the achievement gap, right. Where that black and Hispanic students get lower scores. They said, if they are religiously active, they get higher achievement scores than kids who are not religiously active. So we have that from a secular group saying, hey, with minorities, if you can encourage religion, if you encourage faith in the church, their scores go up. We also know that when you take just standardized achievement tests, whether it's SAT or anything else, you take the SAT test, college-bound test, kids who go to a religious school average 40 to 60 points higher on the SAT than a secular school. So there is something to the religious component that definitely is there. If you take standardized state tests, the same thing. State tests are given both secular and religious schools. And so the Founding Fathers were really big on this. You go back to the first federal educational law they dealt with, they said religion, morality, and knowledge is what you teach in the classroom. Start with religion, then you get morality from that, and then we'll add knowledge after that.
What would you say to people who want to throw up their hands and say, we need something else because this isn't working?
Well, it's hopeless if you want it to be fixed in 2 years. But this is a problem that we've allowed to creep in over 60 years, really right. Closer to 100 years, depending on when you start it. If you want to go back to the 20s when a lot of it got started, or if you want to look at post-World War II when a lot of it became visible, you're not going to fix it in 1 or 2 or 3 years. One of the things that we have done in Texas is we came out with a new set of curriculum standards that will shape the rest of the nations, and they're very conservative, very back to basics of American exceptionalism, the free market system. We have the faith back in the textbooks, faith of the founders, right. The role of religious groups. But it didn't just happen. We started back nearly 15 years ago saying, there's 15 elected members on the State Board of Education. Right now, we're losing votes 14-1. We only had one person who would stand with us for traditional historical standards. So we started taking out 1 or 2 at an election cycle. We finally got to where that when we had this last vote, we won every vote 10-5, 9-6, 11-4. It took us 5 or 6 election cycles to get enough good guys on there to get stuff done. But it's the same with school boards, same with principals, same with anything else. If you're not willing to get in and stay in and make a change, if you're going to stay outside and yell about I can't get it changed, this is not a microwave mentality you have to be involved in education. This is something that takes systemic change, and it takes time. But I'm seeing great stuff happen across the nation. Now, there's a lot of hostility like we've never seen before, but there's also a lot of pushback going. We see, for example, Louisiana, other places are now implementing educational choice in a way that we haven't seen. If you let competition get back in schools, that'll fix a whole lot of the problems. Public schools, charter schools, anything else, when they have to compete and compare their scores and be accountable for their scores, it's going to make a big difference. So we have a philanthropist friend in San Antonio right. That looked at the lowest performing school in that area, and I think they were having like 2/3 of the kids drop out, right. didn't complete. And he personally took from his wealth and gave for all the kids in that district. He said, if you go to any school you want in San Antonio, I'll pay for it. I'll take you through school. And he did. And so what he did was basically empty out that school. That school had to suddenly compete. They're now a very good school because they were losing all their kids. They had to change their policies, come in with better curriculum and teachers. They're now a very competitive school.
So feel the heat and see the light.
Feel the heat and see the light. Exactly what happened. And so that is what we have, where we've done limited testing in other areas, Milwaukee, et cetera, where they had vouchers. You see the scores go up, and you see the public schools come up as well. I've been involved in writing history standards for 20 years in states. And so I've been through Texas, California, Oklahoma, et cetera. And the group that I've seen be the most disciplined in staying in and fighting from the inside out has been the Muslims. They say, how does the process work? All right, we got to learn the process, get in the process. They become involved. They now have places of influence that Christians, we stay outside and throw stones.
Right.
They get inside and build relationships with administrators. They build relationships with those who write the standards. And so what happens is, as we stand outside and throw stones, they've already taken the system. And so it's a real, for me, I look at systems like education the same way I look at a car. It has no intrinsic value on its own, but it will go, whoever's behind the wheel will drive it in their direction. And if you're going to allow Muslims to get involved in the system and drive in their direction, we can't complain about that. We just have to get involved in the system and drive it in our direction. And so that's one of the things. Now, as far as the study, we have a national group out of California that's the same thing, and they're documenting the same kind of monstrosities. But it's because the Muslims have been very disciplined. They're willing to stay in there 10, 15 years, build relationships and influence people and get one curriculum change a year. They get science changes here, and they show all the hospitals started by Muslims. And they do that, and before long, they've got the whole textbook, anything that's good.
So you're saying that we've got to be in it for the long haul. We've got to get in it and stay in it.
We've got to get in it and stay in it. I mean, we can't just... Christians particularly, conservatives especially, go from inspiration to inspiration. Right. If we don't see a victory, we go find something else to do. And these guys stay in it until they get a victory. And we have a thing that says, well, I'm going to try, and if I don't win, I'm going to find something else because this must not have been my thing. They'll say, we're going to try. If we lose, we're going to try again, and try again, and try again, and try again until we win. And until we get that same kind of long-term mentality, we're not going to see much change in education.